Imagine this. Humanity has encountered a civilization that outnumbers it by 1,000,000 times. These creatures have mastered agriculture long before us. They built a flawless, functioning society. They educate their young, care for the weak, and bury their dead. They have easily outlived every predator on their planet for over 100 million years. And yet, a simple infection can turn them into mummies. Sounds like science fiction? It's not. Humanity has been at war with this civilization for many years. They are termites. And today, you'll learn things about them that will astonish and shock you. The Mystery of Termites. You've all seen termites, at least on TV, and many have met them in real life. It's hard not to notice when your house suddenly turns into dust, but chances are you know very little about them. For instance, you probably have no idea how many of them live on this planet. The number of species alone is staggering. About 3,000 described species of termites. They live on every continent except Antarctica, with the greatest diversity found in the tropics. They're very tiny. Most measure only 0.1 inches, with some rare species reaching 0.6 inches. But their total number is unfathomable. By rough estimates, there are hundreds of quadrillions of them. This number is so hard to comprehend that it's easier to estimate their biomass by weight. For this, scientists use dry biomass as a standard unit. That's the mass with water removed, because otherwise, a jellyfish might unfairly outweigh someone just due to its water content. Well, according to Science Advances, the dry biomass of all termites on Earth is about 100 million tons, roughly equal to the total dry biomass of all humanity. Termites are visible even on a planetary scale, quite literally. They release tens of millions of tons of methane every year, contributing 1 to 3% of global emissions. They live in colonies. At first glance, that seems ordinary. Ants and bees do exactly the same. But you have to see what some of these colonies look like. They're enormous, even by human standards, visible from miles away. For example, termite mounds of certain African species rise 26 to 33 feet high, with a record of over 40 feet. Each structure can weigh several tons. So in the insect world, these are real skyscrapers, entire cities and metropolises. And their spread across the globe is nothing short of astronomical for insects. In northeastern Brazil, there is a giant termite city. Though city is too small a word, it's an entire termite country, covering an area the size of Great Britain, filled with 200 million earthen cones. These are the tops of their mounds. Each mound is up to 8 feet tall and 30 feet wide. In fact, there are so many of them that satellite images of the region look like goosebumps. Each bump is one massive earthen structure. And this termite metropolis is ancient. The oldest mounds here are up to 4,000 years old. For a long time, it held the record for the oldest termite settlement, until another site surpassed it, and by a huge margin. In 2024, an international team of scientists from South Africa and Hungary discovered the oldest active termite mounds in the world, and they turned out to be older than human civilization itself. That is, older than civilization as we know it, with agriculture, crafts, and writing. Analysis showed that some of these structures are up to 34,000 years old.
That's older than the iconic cave paintings in Europe, and even older than the last glacial maximum, when vast ice sheets covered much of the northern hemisphere.
Explained lead researcher of the study, Michelle Francis. The termite mounds found in South Africa are almost 9 times older than the previous record holders from Brazil. But all that is just dry data. Now, let's see what kind of creatures built them and how their world works. Let's start with their lineage. Surprise! Termites aren't related to ants at all, not even distant cousins. Yes, that sounds strange, given how much they resemble one another. In fact, their closest living relatives are wood roaches of the Cryptocercus genus. At first glance, they might not seem to have much in common, but even their gut microbiota are similar. Surprised that termites have gut bacteria like humans? That's just the beginning of the story. Termites are very ancient beings. They appeared no later than the early Cretaceous period, roughly 145 to 130 million years ago. And their evolutionary roots go even deeper, back to the Jurassic, around 170 million years ago. In other words, termites existed long before the extinction of the dinosaurs. And they survived the cause of that extinction, the Chicxulub asteroid impact. They also survived the ensuing planetary chaos and endured successive ice age cycles. So what kind of creatures are these? So ancient and almost indestructible. Let's see how nature designed them. Although a closer look makes it clear that termites and ants are not relatives, the resemblance between them is striking. So we'll still compare them occasionally for clarity. The first similarity is their division into castes: workers, soldiers, and reproductive individuals. Let's see how this caste system manifests in their appearance and functions. A termite's body structure follows the classic insect blueprint with 3 distinct parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. On its head, there are chewing mandibles and beaded antennae, the termite's primary nose and navigation tool for detecting scents and touch. Like ants, termites literally smell and feel their surroundings, even the air, with these antennae. In most termite species, workers and soldiers have underdeveloped or completely absent eyes. That's right, almost all termites are completely blind. Their world is dark, and the perception there is shaped not by light, but by chemicals and vibrations. To be precise, blindness is typical of the working castes, while reproducing males and females retain sight. Like all insects, they breathe through a tracheal system. Air enters their spiracles on the sides of their bodies and then travels via a network of tiny tubes directly to the tissues. Their circulatory system is open, filled with hemolymph instead of blood, and their heart is a dorsal pump, moving the fluid back and forth rather than in a closed loop as in humans. The cuticle, the termite's equivalent of skin, is fairly thin. The danger here is not so much physical injury as it is dehydration. Water evaporates quickly through such a delicate cuticle, so termites follow a strict water discipline. They live under cover, maintain humidity, and only move outside through enclosed earthen tubes. These are sealed passageways made of soil or clay that termites construct specifically to avoid direct sunlight. Their digestive system is where half of their uniqueness lies, because termites eat wood. And for most living beings, wood is about as digestible as stone. Breaking down cellulose, the main component of wood, is a formidable task. But it seems termites have mastered it better than any other creature. Although they've achieved this by entering into a symbiosis with other organisms. But more on that shortly. The nervous system of a termite is typical of insects. A small brain above the pharynx, and nerve cord running along the body with a series of ganglia, nerve centers. Each ganglion controls its own segment and can function independently from the main brain. As mentioned, the antennae act as both the termite's nose and fingertips. Yes, termites use them to detect smells, explore surfaces, and even sense air humidity. Their legs and cuticle are covered in mechanoreceptors, vibration sensors that allow termites to hear not with ears, but literally with their legs and skin. In soldier termites, defense and attack mechanisms vary by family and species. Some species have enormous mandibles, sometimes to the very extremes. Others possess glands that secrete sticky or corrosive chemicals. In the snouted termites of the Termini subfamily, there's even a frontal gland with a nozzle-like opening on the head. In action, this biological weapon looks astonishingly similar to a human-made weapon. We'll discuss this in more detail later when we explore their bitter rivalry with ants. For now, let's turn to something more peaceful: how termite society works, starting from the very beginning, how this society is born. On a warm evening after the rain, the ground around a termite mound seems to crack open at the seams. The swarming almost always coincides with a specific weather window: high humidity, calm air, and a warm night. Winged males and females, called alates, begin to emerge from the cracks. During their brief flight, pairs find each other by scent. This search is guided by a chemical passport. Each colony has its own unique smell, so alates seek a partner with a different signature. This reduces the risk of inbreeding. Often, dozens of nests in the same area swarm synchronously, increasing the odds of finding a mate from another family. Once they land, they both shed their wings. There will be no second chance. The wings break off along a natural fracture line at the base, a special pre-designed seam nature gave to alates. From this moment, they move on foot together. The male dutifully follows the female, tracking the trail of her pheromones. Together, they search for a crevice in the soil, a crack in the bark, or a hollow beneath a stone. Once found, they dig inward, scraping out their first tiny chamber. Only then, having finally solved their housing problem, the pair mates in seclusion. The queen can store sperm inside her body for years, as ants do. But unlike ants, where the male dies immediately, termite kings are not one-time partners. He remains with the queen for life, mating periodically, maintaining a steady pace of egg-laying, and caring for both his mate and the eggs. They will likely spend their entire lives in this little apartment, and around it, a new colony will begin to form. There are roughly 3 stages in how a new colony starts and gains momentum. Stage 1: minimalism and austerity. At first, life is modest. The queen is still of ordinary size, laying only a few dozen eggs per day. And if that sounds like a lot, just wait. The king stays by her side at all times, a rare, constant husband in the insect world. He tends to her, cleans her, feeds her, and guards the clutch. After a few weeks, larvae hatch, and from those larvae emerge the first workers. Stage 2. From this moment, the colony gets on its feet. The workers now care for the queen and handle feeding, and the pace of egg-laying increases dramatically. The queen produces batches of eggs, which the workers immediately collect, clean, and coat with antiseptic saliva. The batch is then taken to the nursery, specially prepared warm chambers next to the queen's chamber. Termites maintain a stable humidity and a temperature of about 85 degrees Fahrenheit there. If it's too damp, they open microchannels. If it's too dry, they seal the gaps with plugs. In the nursery, the worker termites act as nannies. They arrange the eggs in clusters, regularly turn them over, remove debris and mold, and once the larvae hatch, they start feeding them immediately. When the larvae grow into young workers, they move into special inner work sections. It's a safe perimeter around the nursery where the youngest termites undergo training. Here, they learn to groom larvae, carry tiny portions of food, reinforce the walls, open and close ventilation passages, sort waste, and transport it to refuse chambers. As they mature, their perimeter and route expand. From simple internal chores, they move on to construction, repair, and logistics. and eventually to dangerous expeditions outside in search of food or anything else the colony needs. Once a steady rotation of nannies is in place, the humidity levels stabilize and the food supply is running smoothly. That's when a sort of reproductive frenzy begins. Stage 3. The queen eats more and more, and the workers are eager to continuously supply her with food. Her ovaries become increasingly efficient, producing ever more eggs. Her abdomen begins to expand, accommodating a growing number of developing eggs. And the daily egg-laying rate grows exponentially. Dozens at first, then hundreds, then thousands. In some species, it can reach tens of thousands of eggs per day. The queen becomes enormous and can no longer move on her own. She turns into a living incubator. A single queen is enough to sustain the colony's growth for years. The colony expands to hundreds of thousands or even millions of individuals. Who the newborns become, workers, soldiers, or reproductives, is determined by diet and chemical signals. Termite larvae are like identical factory blanks that can be turned into different products depending on how they're processed. Likewise, all termite larvae look the same at first, but their feeding regime decides who they will become. Food is the key control lever for population structure. Different types and amounts of food alter hormone levels in developing larvae, including the so-called juvenile hormone. High levels result in soldiers. Lower levels produce workers. In other words, it's a form of direct population management. In peaceful times, larvae receive a simpler diet, more fiber and humus, less protein and calories. This keeps their bodies small and universal, without heavy armor or wings. These become workers. When danger arises and more defenders are needed, larvae are fed a soldier's diet, richer in protein. Hormone levels spike. Development accelerates, mandibles grow, and defensive glands develop. There is no turning back. These larvae become soldiers. At the same time, the pheromones of the royal pair circulate throughout the colony. They suppress the development of extra princes and princesses until the nest is strong enough. To reach that strength, it first needs to mass produce enough workers and soldiers. When the colony finally matures enough for reproduction, the pheromone influence weakens, and some larvae receive royal nutrition, the richest, most high-calorie diet, loaded with lipids. Their eyes, wings, and reproductive organs begin to form, a stage known as the nymph, which workers and soldiers skip entirely. From these nymphs emerge alates, future kings and queens. The moment of their flight is not random, but neither is it triggered by a command. It depends mainly on the weather window, the first warm rains, high humidity, calm air, and twilight. The workers open the launch tunnels, let moist air in, and then an entire swarm of winged termites rises into the open for their one and only flight in life. In most species, a mature colony swarms about once a year. In the tropics, there are often several waves during the rainy season. A colony is considered mature once it can produce its own alates annually. And if something goes wrong, the colony always has a plan B. If the queen dies or the family becomes too large, some nymphs may mature into so-called neotenic males and females. These are backup kings and queens, just in case. And unlike the alates, they never leave the nest because they don't develop wings. Even more astonishingly, this transformation can happen even to worker termites, already fully formed and busy with their worker duties. When the queen dies, her pheromonal influence within the colony weakens. This automatically triggers a transformation process in some individuals. Which termites begin to change depends on many factors: age, health, and biological readiness for the role. The lucky few start to grow an enlarged abdomen, develop eyes, and reproductive organs. After several molts, a miniature queen is ready, and she can even mate with the widowed king. Yes, termite marriage takes many forms. In some genera, like Macrotermes, there's almost always just one pair of lifelong partners. In others, like Reticulatermes or Zootermopsis, polygyny with multiple queens is common. Some species display a remarkable phenomenon known as asexual queen succession. The reigning queen produces parthenogenetic daughters, essentially her own clones. Later, these daughters become new queens and mate with the same king. The royal line continues uninterrupted, and egg production doesn't drop. In some species, this system goes even further. Instead of one queen, there are several queens in different sectors of the nest. In others, the colony splits into branches and establishes daughter nests. All these redundancies of kings and queens may seem excessive, but in reality, they are essential for survival. After all, reproduction depends entirely on them. Soldiers and workers are sterile. In the end, there's no romance here, only the engineering of life. A single mating flight, a lifelong union, a chamber the size of a thimble, the first few dozen eggs, and then decades of continuous operation of the living bioreactor known as the colony. Yes, a termite colony is a long-running enterprise. Inside, everything works like clockwork. Some tend the brood. Others build and forage. Others defend the nest. Together, they form one organism. Communication runs through smells, touches, and wall vibrations. Pheromones act as the termite internet, allowing the family to monitor the queen's health, determine where more caregivers, builders, or soldiers are needed, and instantly redistribute personnel. If defense is needed, more larvae become soldiers. During calm times, more workers are raised. Hygiene is taken very seriously. They even have something like an epidemic control unit. Any scratch or suspicious smell, and a sanitation team appears immediately. To lick clean, apply antiseptic saliva, or isolate the affected individual. Deep inside, they maintain waste chambers where all the debris goes. Mold spores, shed cuticles, and dead nestmates. Their daily rhythm is set by their skin itself. For many species, peak activity happens at night, since their thin cuticle dislikes sunlight and dry air. At night, galleries grow fastest. Inside, chambers are constantly remodeled, arches reinforced, and ventilation shafts cleaned. Internal traffic is organized like in a city. There are broad highways with turnouts, bottlenecks for defense, and covered outer tunnels. Workers travel along these routes to feeding areas without drying out in the sun or falling prey to predators. If a wall is breached, the damaged section is quickly sealed off, detours are opened, and repairs are made. The microclimate returns to normal within minutes. Alarm signals spread through vibrations. If someone at the perimeter senses danger, they bang their head against the wall. The tremor races through the tunnels. A few sharp, rapid beats, and defense units instantly line up at narrow passages. As the family grows, the nest expands into several neighboring sectors, like districts of a single city. They're connected by shared routes, governed by the same sense, the same signals, the same discipline. Pure life engineering. Calm, repetitive, and perfectly reliable. And looking at this megastructure, one can't help but wonder, what feeds this immense population? Once again, the termite diet proves to be a masterpiece of evolution. Termites are generally divided into two broad groups, lower and higher termites. The latter are evolutionarily more advanced in both structure and lifestyle, and these two groups have very different diets. The lower termites can digest only wood, and for that, they rely on large single-celled flagellates living in their gut. But even such a primitive digestive system is quite delicate. All termite families except Termitidae belong to this lower group. The higher termites, on the other hand, are all part of the Termitidae family. They are far more sophisticated creatures. Their intestines host entire teams of bacteria that work in sync with the termites' own enzymes. This advanced digestive setup allows them not only to eat wood, but also soil and humus. Some of them are harvesters that collect dry grasses and grains, and some groups have gone even further into true agriculture, as you'll soon see. Despite their dietary differences, all termites have to digest cellulose, the main component of wood and grass. And here's the problem. Wood provides carbohydrates, but almost no protein, which is essential for survival. Termites, however, have evolved an ingenious solution. They produce enzymes that break cellulose molecules into simpler sugars, and microbes assist in the process. Some help digest the fibers, while others extract nitrogen from the air. That nitrogen is then converted into protein inside the termite's body, compensating for the protein deficit in their wooden diet. There's also a simple, practical trick. Rotting wood tastes better. Seriously. Once wood has been softened by fungi, it becomes easier to chew and digest, making decayed logs more valuable than fresh ones. Let's see how food is shared inside the colony. And now, a small yuck moment. Termite feeding is like a relay race. Worker termites literally pass food from one to another, but it's already chewed and partially digested. This mushy mixture nourishes the workers themselves, as well as the soldiers, nymphs, and the queen, as it's passed from mouth to mouth. Here's how it works step by step. A worker termite chews up wood, or any plant matter. In its gut, symbiotic microbes swarm the plant pulp. Some microbes break down cellulose into simple sugars. Others add nitrogen taken from the air. The mixture turns into a semi-digested paste. The worker regurgitates part of this mush and passes it to soldiers, larvae, and nymphs mouth to mouth. This food-sharing process is called trophallaxis. Along with the paste, termites also pass on their microbes. Termites molt a couple of times in their life. And after each time, they shed the lining of their gut. This lining is also shared mouth to mouth, but not only this way. And now comes the big ew. Termites aren't squeamish about another method of transferring gut microbes, from anus to mouth. Yes, it sounds unappetizing, but it's perfectly effective. Thanks to this total exchange system, calories and gut cultures circulate evenly throughout the colony. Along with food, termites also pass pheromones and other signaling molecules like messages in a chat group. The queen lives on a constant supply. Young workers bring her the most nutrient-rich food, feed her more often, coat her with antimicrobial cosmetics, and remove her waste. Soldiers are also fed by workers. Their large jaws are great for battle, but terrible for chewing. When resources run low, the colony switches to crisis mode. Some eggs or the weakest larvae are eaten. This recycles nutrients and helps the colony survive tough times. And among higher termites, food isn't just found or collected, it's grown right inside the nest. It may be hard to believe, but termites actually practice real farming. Here's how it works. For example, the African-Asian group, Macroterminitae, deep inside the nest lie special gardening chambers. Workers chew grass, dead leaves, and small twigs, mix them with saliva, and lay the mixture in tidy portions, forming neat beds, or scientifically speaking, fungal compost. Onto this substrate, the termites cultivate the fungus Termitomyces, which serves as their external stomach, breaking down cellulose and softening lignin. On these fungal beds, not only does a web of mycelium grow, but also small, dense fungal nodules appear within the compost. Tiny spheres ranging in size from a pinhead to a grain of rice. These are part of the fungus itself, both food and seed material at once. Workers collect them, feed them to larvae, and distribute them across new beds to inoculate fresh compost with mycelium. After the rains, the fungus sends its fruiting bodies to the surface, producing large Termitomyces mushrooms. The termites rarely use them, but people do. Across Africa and Asia, these mushrooms are well-known edibles, sometimes growing impressively large. The cycle goes in a loop. Workers deliver a new portion of substrate from above. The middle of the bed grows a dense mat of fungus, and the lower ripening layer turns into a rich, nutritious matter. That mass feeds the larvae, the queen, and everyone staying inside the nest that day. Farming begins from the moment a new colony is founded. When establishing a nest, the young royal pair brings along a small reserve of mycelium, carried in their intestines or gathered from nearby soil, depending on the species. From then on, the farm relies on its own beds. Part of the mycelium remains in the compost, part in the nodules, so fresh seed stock is always available. The termites tend their garden with precision. Workers sort particles by size and maintain perfect moisture levels. If the wrong kind of microbes appear, the bed is relocated or destroyed to prevent an outbreak. Temperature is kept stable. The fungus loves consistency, and the termite nest provides exactly that. The fungal garden runs under fine-tuned conditions. Inside the chambers, the temperature stays near 85 degrees Fahrenheit with high humidity, ventilated by a system of shafts and chimneys. Any foreign mold is removed like a tumor. The contaminated section is cut out. Walls are coated with antimicrobial secretions, and the bed is replanted. Think about it. This isn't just a random activity, but a well-organized cultivation system with its own sanitation protocol. Not all termites have fungal greenhouses. Some solve the problem differently by creating compost chambers. There, workers pile up chewed plant litter, where bacteria start breaking down cell walls. Essentially, termites outsource the hardest phase of digestion outside their own bodies, into separate rooms. Then they eat this pre-decomposed, softened food. The principle is the same as with the fungus farmers. Complex polymers are broken down externally, and the colony gets ready to eat nutritious food. The side effects of termite agriculture influence entire landscapes. The fungal gardens and underground tunnels redistribute moisture and nutrients, mixing soil layers. Stable islands of fertility form around the mounds. Grass grows thicker. Crops sprout better. Shrubs and trees withstand droughts more easily. A termite city feeds not only itself, but also the surroundings. The most skilled agriculturalists among termites are macrotermes, odontotermes, microtermes, and their neighbors. Their vast termite mounds rely almost entirely on their own harvests. That's why such colonies can grow to enormous sizes without depleting their environment. Bed by bed, season by season, their farm works non-stop, feeding the entire community. But the ideal ends there. Where there's steady warmth and food, there's always a line of opportunists waiting to take advantage. And for termites, that's where the real trouble begins. If freeloaders were their only problem, it wouldn't be so bad, but it isn't. As one fairy tale character once said, the life of a small creature is very dangerous. If you're small, soft, and nutritious, Many neighbors in your habitat will inevitably see you as food. And that perfectly applies to termites. Everyone eats them. The pangolin breaks open the wall and licks out the tunnels with its long tongue. Anteaters and aardvarks crack a mound open like a can of food and wipe out dozens of termites with a single lick. In one night, an aardvark can consume up to 50,000 termites. And the aardwolf practically grazes on termites at night, eating up to 300,000 termites before dawn. Lizards, toads, and spiders all take their share, each with its own way of breaching defenses and capturing termites. Birds join in from above. During swarming season, the air fills with winged alates, and flocks devour thousands of flying males and females. At the water, fish do the same. If a termite falls in, it's gone in an instant. In fact, termites don't even have time to fall. They are caught mid-air. And these are far from all their enemies. There are invisible ones too. Pathogenic fungi, nematodes, and bacteria can wipe out an entire nest in a matter of days. That's why termites maintain such strict sanitation protocols, constant licking, antiseptic coatings, isolation of infected zones, and in hopeless cases, quick burial to prevent infection from spreading through the tunnels. Add us, humans, to the mix. Wooden houses and global trade have helped several termite species spread across the world. How? Quite simply, we build timber frame houses, ready-made food and shelter for termites. We also carry them across continents inside lumber, pallets, furniture, and potted plants. Port cities become entry points, and from there, the spread continues via railroads and highways. We build barriers and poison them. They adapt and come back stronger, an endless race of shield versus sword. But their greatest enemy on land is the ant. For termites, ants are a never-ending, soul-chilling, chronic horror. And for ants, termites are a valuable source of protein. Their raids are strategically precise and ruthlessly executed. It usually begins with reconnaissance. A column of ants discovers a scent trail left by termites, finds their uncovered galleries, and tries to breach the narrow tunnel necks to reach the brood. The first contact triggers the nest alarm. Workers and soldiers drum their bodies against the tunnel walls, and the vibrations spread through the chambers. In response to this signal, narrow passages are sealed off with living plugs. Soldiers literally block the entrances with their heads, using them as shields or barriers. In these tight corridors, the ants' numerical advantage suddenly becomes meaningless. When the termite mound's integrity is badly compromised and a full unit intervention is needed, the soldiers line up in a defensive formation, somewhat resembling a phalanx. They attack the invaders chaotically, buying time for the workers to patch the breach. Usually, these phalanx soldiers later become casualties themselves. Once the wall is sealed, the phalanx can no longer return to the nest. Depending on their species, termite soldiers differ in specialization, and that determines their anatomy. There are so-called phragmatic soldiers, the living shields that plug tunnels with their heads. There are also mandibulate soldiers, equipped with strong jaws for fighting, or at least restraining intruders while the workers repair the damage. Many species have even developed chemical weapons, glands producing substances toxic to ants. The nasute soldier termites are particularly advanced. They have a nozzle on their forehead that sprays sticky secretions, immobilizing attackers from several centimeters away up to dozens of times farther. Despite this impressive arsenal, ants remain a terrifying enemy and cause constant trouble for termites. The most vulnerable time is during the swarming season. When winged males and females leave the nest, ants ambush them at exits, in the air and on the ground. The colony's response is to seal exits and shift the swarm's launch point quickly. but the colony almost always loses part of its brides and grooms. Sometimes ants use a different tactic: siege warfare. They cut supply lines, ambush workers along foraging routes, and, according to some observers, can maintain a siege for days, carrying out regular raids. In such cases, termites switch to engineering defense deep inside the nest, duplicating shafts, opening side bypasses, strengthening plugs, and conserving soldiers. In extreme cases, when things are very bad, some species deploy a last line of defense. Older worker termites transform into kamikazes. Scientists from the Academy of Sciences of the Czech Republic have uncovered an astonishing mechanism of desperate self-defense in Neocapritermes terracua termites from French Guiana. These insects accumulate toxic compounds in their bodies and, in moments of danger, literally explode, striking enemies with their poison. Worker termites have a pair of small pouches on the upper side of their abdomen where a special enzyme gradually accumulates. As they age, these termites fill their backpacks with blue, copper-rich crystals, and in old individuals, these pouches are completely full. When attacked, the termite suddenly contracts its muscles, tearing the membranes between its abdominal segments. In this moment, the protein from the blue pockets mixes with and reacts to saliva secretions. This produces a sticky, toxic paste which bursts outward in sprays, gluing and poisoning the attacker. Scientists note that termites become these living chemical bombs only in old age, when their mandibles grow dull and they can no longer fight or forage efficiently. Elderly workers then sacrifice themselves to ensure the colony's safety. Victory in this war is always temporary. Today, the colony may fend off an attack, but tomorrow, the enemy's tactics can change. Still, ants are manageable. They can be fought off. The real trouble begins when the enemy settles inside you. Let's return to ants for a moment, but this time to feel sorry for them, because in their world, there exists something truly chilling, a real-life horror. In these images, the poor ant is no longer itself. A microscopic fungus has completely taken control of its body. Quite literally, it directs its movements, leading it on its final journey, somewhere higher on a stalk. There, the fungus will grow through the ant's body to disperse spores. Termites don't experience this exact kind of zombie horror, but they face something similar. Termites have long-standing fungal enemies, Metarhizium and Bovaria. Their spores stick to the termite's cuticle, sprout with sucker-like and drilling structures. Then, using corrosive enzymes and mechanical pressure, they penetrate the body wall. Once inside, the fungal filaments spread through the hemolymph, releasing toxins, suppressing the immune response, and turning the insect into a silent, living nutrient farm. The host dies, its body mummifies, and becomes covered in spores. Metarhizium leaves a greenish olive coating. Bovaria, a white one. Termites counter this threat with a kind of social immunity, intense grooming, antimicrobial coatings, isolating infected chambers, burying or even eating the sick, anything to prevent the fungus from maturing and releasing spores. Termites also face some non-lethal fungal infections, but their symptoms look terrible. For example, the fungus Antinopsis sometimes settles on the termite's antenna and body surface. The thin, branching outgrowths hang from their antenna, creating what looks like a bizarre termite body horror under magnification. And so, termites live surrounded by constant threats from every direction. Yet, despite the multitude of external and internal enemies, termites have allies as well. You already know the termites' main friends, their gut symbionts. In lower termites, there's an entire team of flagellates and bacteria that break down cellulose into simple molecules. In the higher termites, Termitidae, the system works a bit differently, but they still rely on intricate bacterial consortia functioning in their gut. Sanitation is also a team effort. Bacteria that suppress mold and pathogens live on termite exoskeletons and the walls of their chambers. This is supported by the behavioral hygiene we already mentioned: grooming, antiseptic coatings, and isolation of the sick. But it doesn't stop there. They also maintain a microbial defense. Termites line their nests with biofilms that act as natural antiseptics. The termite city has tenants as well: termitophiles, beetles, bugs, mites, and small cockroaches. They're not exactly friends. Most of them simply take advantage of the warmth and humidity, but some pay their rent by cleaning up waste and carrion. Of course, there are freeloaders too, but overall, the balance leans toward live and let others live. Finally, there's the invisible gas ecology. As termites digest food, they produce methane, but part of it is consumed by methanotrophic bacteria inside the mound. The net emissions are lower than they might be, a small but measurable service to the planet's ecosystem. Allies within, enemies outside, and at the center, home. Let's take a walk through a termite mound and see how this natural marvel is built and organized. You've probably always suspected that a termite mound isn't just a pile of dry soil. It's a real structure with a very specific architectural design. And indeed, it is. As long as the colony is alive, the mound is constantly built up and remodeled. New chambers appear, shafts are cut through, and the floor plans are updated. The largest mounds reach nearly 40 feet, but the above-ground tower is just the tip of the iceberg. Below it stretches a network of tunnels and chambers that can extend tens of meters. The building material is a kind of biocement, a mix of soil, chewed organic matter, and saliva. Once dried, the outer layer becomes hard while the inside remains porous. This dual structure helps the mound keep its shape, resist cracking under heat, and allows quick repairs after heavy rains. If a wall is breached, workers patch it up within minutes, restoring the interior microclimate. The layout serves some functions. At the bottom are the royal chamber and nurseries. Nearby are the garden rooms in fungus-growing species. Above them lie storage chambers and moisture and air buffer cavities. Vertical channels connect everything into one system. Like in a chimney, warm, used air rises to the top, drawing in cooler, oxygen-rich air from below. As a result, even under scorching heat and wide daily temperature swings, the inside remains humid, and the temperature stays at around 85 degrees Fahrenheit, all without fans or electricity. The mound's shape is also far from random. Some are thin obelisks. Others are vast cathedrals with towers and buttresses. In northern Australia, elaborate mounds are built by Amatermes meridionalis and other related species. They are narrow plates oriented strictly north-south, like a compass needle. The sun heats them evenly in the morning and evening, while at noon, the thin edge faces the sun to prevent overheating. Termites achieve passive thermoregulation using nothing but geometry. The termite city is designed for intensive traffic flow inside. Wide highways carry the main traffic, with wider junctions for passing and bottlenecks at defensive points. There, shield-headed soldiers can plug the passage and buy time for repairs. Covered galleries connect to distant foraging grounds, earthen tunnels that protect workers from drying out or being spotted by predators. The underground part also manages local hydrology. The tunnels aerate the soil, and the porous walls draw and redistribute moisture between layers. This makes the ground around the mound noticeably more fertile, an ecological bonus service. Building a mature, fully functional mound takes several years. And in some savanna regions, their density can reach hundreds per hectare, a real infrastructure network across the landscape. And this entire system is inherently fail-safe. The mound contains multiple parallel routes, duplicate shafts, bypasses, and backup chambers. If a section is damaged, it can be disconnected, and airflow or worker traffic can be rerouted within minutes. In human terms, a termite mound is a natural HVAC complex. Heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and logistics all in one structure. And it runs entirely without electricity or machinery, powered only by geometry, simple materials, tireless labor, and the termite's intelligence. These creatures were here long before us, and they'll remain long after. Our cities may crumble, but theirs will endure, like that termite metropolis in Brazil that will still be visible from space long after our own cities are gone.